I want you to think back to that one moment where it was getting late and you know you should be going to bed, but for whatever reason, you just have the psychological resistance where you just can't be bothered to actually get off the couch, brush your teeth and actually go to bed. And it's one of those nights where you're not even that tired. And it's not like you've done anything particularly exhausting. Maybe you went to the gym or whatnot, but you're not tired, if you know what I mean. And so you delay it. You stay up a little bit longer and you scroll through social media and half watch something which is on TV, which is background noise at that point. And then without realizing it, your eyelids start to close halfway and your head nods forward as you begin to doze off, until you jolt yourself back up again and wake yourself up. And at that point, your brain is starting to shut down, slipping into brief episodes of microsleep. Eventually, you snap out of it and decide, okay, I actually need to go to bed. But here's the problem. By the time you're actually in bed, your brain is still wide awake. And the more you stress about getting enough rest, the more you struggle to actually fall asleep. And you start thinking to yourself as you lie in bed, staring at the ceiling and constantly checking the time, as you calculate how much sleep you're actually going to get. As you think to yourself, okay, if I fall asleep now, I can get 6 hours, maybe 5.5, okay, now 5 hours. And by the time you actually go to sleep is when your alarm decides to wake you up. And that PTSD of an alarm wakes you up like you've just been recruited for World War III. And without you thinking twice, you hit the snooze button. And those 5 minutes feel like heaven until your alarm goes off again and then you decide to hit the snooze button again. And you start to play this dangerous game of how much sleep you can squeeze in without risking being late. And the worst part, you don't even feel that much more rested. You actually feel more tired and you can feel it in your eyes. And this sort of passive attitude carries well over into our adulthood, which makes it that much harder to actually fall asleep when we need to. And a lot of people have this belief that they can quote unquote make up for lost sleep on the weekend. But I just want to question if that's even true. Well, the thing we have to understand is that the extra sleep can help with short-term sleep debt, but it doesn't really make up for long-term chronic sleep deprivation. And you might get to a stage in your life where you have to pull off an all-nighter, say for an exam, which I'll touch on a little bit later. But what happens? The longer you stay awake, the worse your cognitive function becomes. It's almost like being drunk. Your brain struggles to process information, and your ability to focus takes a nosedive. Yet, despite that, many people still convince themselves that they can push through. And a lot of people claim that they're night owls, and they function better at night. But I just want to really question if that's even true, or if that's just a habit that you've built up over a long period of time. And this is always something that has puzzled me in the education system. How on earth is a student supposed to concentrate when they're forced into chronic sleep deprivation? And I know someone's going to come here and say that, it's all about discipline. The students should, get their homework and assignment done a lot earlier and then wake up a lot earlier to go to school. But it's a weak argument, because wouldn't you agree that self-imposed discipline is a lot more effective than being forced into waking up early and doing arbitrary tasks for which you're not even that motivated for? Let's just be honest here. And this brings me into a topic which I really wanted to talk about, which I would call the depression sleep. Now, this is something that you may have gone through, but you may have not had someone explain it to you like this. And this isn't the kind of sleep that you get into because you're physically tired. It's the kind of sleep where you're trying to escape reality and the pain of life. It's that kind of feeling of, if I just go to sleep now, I don't have to deal with anything for a while. You may even just catch yourself staring at the ceiling in the dark. Maybe your tummy is rumbling for hunger and your mouth is thirsty for water. But you just don't have the will to get up. The worst part is, when you wake up, nothing has changed. The same problems are still there. And this isn't real rest. This isn't the deep sleep that your mind and body is truly craving for. It's almost like pressing the pause button on life, hoping that things will be different when you wake up, but they never do. And that's why breaking out of this cycle isn't necessarily about sleeping more. It's more so about understanding why you're sleeping in the first place and changing your relationship with rest. Because the mainstream advice given to the masses of sleeping 8 hours a day is all you really need. And sure, there is an element of truth to that statement, if certain requirements are met. And I'll explain what I mean, because I'm going to pretty much challenge the entire statement, as I personally sleep around 9 to 10 hours a day. And I know some people are already going to say, isn't that a little bit excessive and oversleeping? But the reason why I don't just sleep for 8 hours, which is what is commonly advertised, is because most people aren't getting the full 8 hours of quality sleep. Because just think about it, the average person is most likely scrolling through the phone before they go to bed. bombarding themselves with all this blue light and disrupting their natural sleep cycle. So while they may be in bed for 8 hours, how much of that time is truly deep sleep? Because for me, getting those extra 1 to 2 hours of sleep gives me enough of a leeway, the sort of window, if you will, to get that good quality sleep that my body is truly craving for. And it's important to stick to a consistent sleep schedule, including the weekends, as you don't want to get into the cycle of trying to make up for lost sleep. Also, try your best to get some sort of physical activity in every single day. And try your best to avoid exercising too close to bedtime. And also try your best to minimize certain substances like alcohol, nicotine, and caffeine, as they also can disrupt your sleep quality, despite what other people may say. And along with that, creating the right environment for sleep is also crucial. And this is something I wish I could go back to my younger self and just invest in, which is a high quality mattress. And also make sure to keep your room cool and dark, so that there's no exposure to blue light while you're asleep. And on the same note, make sure you're able to get some sort of morning light. I mean, obviously it depends on where you live, but especially in the morning, so you can help regulate your internal natural clock. Now, if you want a more detailed scientific breakdown on this whole topic around sleep, I would highly recommend this book called Why We Sleep by Matthew Walker, which is what inspired this video. I appreciate you watching the video, and if you're still interested, you can check out one of the videos that are popping up on screen right now.